Hello again. Remember, the government's recent white paper does not even mention unemployment. We need to ask why. This video explains what the debate is about and why the data suggest India's greatest challenge is it is simply not creating enough good jobs. The chart on this page comes from the government's periodic labor force survey, something we've encountered before. Starting from 2019, the share of Indian jobs in agriculture, that is the blue line, has continued going up. Now, this is alarming in a growing developing country. Usually workers leave agriculture for manufacturing and services. The share in both of those has, on the other hand, been going down. The only other sector that has been increasing in job share is construction. The government's infrastructure push is clearly paying off here. Because more workers are crowding into agriculture, agricultural wages adjusted for inflation have grown at less than 1% a year for the last 10 years. What you see here are two lines representing men's wages and women's wages, and both are moving gently up. Now, 1% a year is really tiny relative to the wage growth in the rest of the economy. And remember, agricultural laborers are amongst the poorest of all of our population, only beaten on the misery index by the long-term unemployed. The poor are therefore getting relatively poorer. So let us turn to the unemployed. Are their numbers really high? That's where there is a vigorous debate. We don't have good data on employment or unemployment. The best we have is a periodic labor force survey again, which reported unemployment of only 5.1% in 2022-23. Many government officials refer to this number to say unemployment is not a problem in India. However, look at the data more carefully. The definition of employment in the periodic labor force survey is problematic. A fast-growing category is self-employment, which consists of own account worker and employer, but also unpaid helper in the household enterprise. In other words, you may not be earning an income, but still count as employed within this category. This category has gone up from 52% of the employed in 2018 to 57% of the employed in 2023. Therefore, it is a really fast-moving category, but we really don't know what's in these 57% of jobs. It could be that you actually have a good job, but it could also be that you're helping the fields or in the kirana shop and are unpaid. Consider the breakup of this category by gender. The orange line moving up is for women, the blue line is for men. The chart suggests almost all the change in the category since 2018 is in women's self-employment or unpaid work. One explanation for rising female employment is men have left rural areas for productive city jobs, so women have stepped in to do the jobs that men were doing in rural areas. We can certainly check that by looking at what jobs men are doing and what jobs women are doing according to the PLFS. What you see in the top chart on the left is male employment. It shows men do seem to have left agriculture. In other words, the blue line is trending down. But for jobs in construction, which is the orange line, which is trending up, not for productive manufacturing or services jobs whose job share has fallen. This is a reflection of the government's focus on infrastructure, but also state governments are doing it, as well as the private sector has stepped up in construction. As the bottom chart shows, however, women seem to be working more on the farm or in casual agricultural labor and pulling back from construction. It is hard to argue that the motivation for women is attractive jobs. As we saw earlier, stagnant rural wages show that these jobs are not particularly attractive. Instead, the data seem consistent with women trying to help out the household by doing more rural work, including tilling in the fields, while the men are away working in road construction. Does this suggest dynamism in the Indian economy? with men and women getting better jobs? Or does it suggest distress, with poorer households breaking up as all adults look for work, any work, with work hard to get and salaries low? There is an easy way to check. If both men and women are moving to better jobs, the average production per job, what is called labor productivity in economist jargon, should typically be increasing rapidly. So divide GDP by the number of employed workers according to PLFS data, and we get production per worker. This is the blue line in the chart. That is this line. As you can see, it kept pace with the red line, which is showing 3.5% growth, about the average growth in our labor productivity. So our actual productivity was growing a little faster until 2019, when it plummeted and fell even further during the pandemic lockdown. After an initial recovery after the pandemic lockdown, we're seeing again this line is diverging away from the red line, suggesting our productivity growth is not keeping pace with what it was earlier. This divergence, this slowdown in productivity growth, is either because existing workers have slowed down the pace at which they increase their output, and I don't see any reason why that should be happening, or the new jobs being created are not very productive, therefore bringing down average productivity. In other words, the data seem to suggest that we're not getting the dynamism that we need. So what is the bottom line of all the data I've shown you? Rural wages are stagnant. Men are leaving rural areas naturally for construction, which pays a little higher, leaving women to take their place in agriculture. Labor productivity as a result is not going up as before because these new jobs that are emerging are not particularly productive. All this is consistent with rural distress and distressed employment, as former chief statistician Dr. Pranab Sen suggests, rather than a flourishing job market. Therefore, again, the topic of this video is that we absolutely need to create good jobs, and this is the most important challenge for the next government. Thank you.